Good afternoon and welcome to the April 15th meeting of the Richmond Water and Sewer Department or Commission. So does anyone have any public comments or additions, deletions, or modifications to our agenda? No? Okay, so then the first thing that we will do is the approval of the minutes from last meeting. Do we have any motions?
Here, this is David. I move to approve the minutes of April 1st.
Bart, I'm looking at you because I wasn't here.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, are there any discussion or are we moving to a vote? Moving to a vote. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
David, aye.
Jay abstain.
Bart, aye.
Aaron, aye. So next, we'll move on to the purchase orders and warrants.
No purchase orders, we just have the warrant.
Okay, and the one warrant.
Uh,
So,
Madam Chairman, move to accept the warrants as presented.
all right, do we have a second for that?
This is David. I'll second.
All right, so let's take a vote on the warrants as presented.
David, aye.
Jay, aye.
Bart, aye.
Aaron, aye. All right, so, all right, moving on. The items for this evening, we're moving on to the list of items, correct?
Yep.
All right, so the first thing we have to discuss tonight is the review of the draft fiscal year 25 budget, which I feel like turns over to you, correct?
Okay,
All right.
I will share my screen and walk through changes since last time. I'm gonna make sure I've got all of the latest Zoom icons reappropriated to good positions. So there's been no changes to the base water budget or sewer budget or fire protection. The commission, we've been spending most of our time looking at use of restricted and unrestricted funds and the capital projects, which are over here. So, God, there's so many Zoom pop-up things. Sorry, bear with me. Trying to recreate stuff. All right, so starting on this page, this is a look at use of restricted and unrestricted reserves in FY24 and projections in FY25. The one change that I made to this based on last meeting was this number up here. We have $115,681 for water meters. We had about $100,000 penciled in there for installation of water meters, but based on the discussion at last meeting, we're going to do that with town staff, but we added $11,800 for the purchase of additional water meters to account for the cost of reprogramming some that we have on hand. So we decided we'd buy $11,800 worth of water meters. We do still need to determine where we want to put that, but I'll move on to the next couple of things quickly, and then we can come back to that. Under capital projects.
Hang on, what's
Nope,
the,
go ahead.
oh, we're just doing it. Never
I was just going to give an overview.
Okay.
I mean, there's only like 5 things to talk
Yeah.
about, and then we'll come back. Under the capital projects, I added $81,000 for reimbursable projects, which will be paid back and partially reimbursed by a CSWD loan. Sorry, CWSRF loan. We're going to talk about this later in the meeting too. A proposal from Hoyle-Tanner for public outreach, wastewater treatment facility upgrade, and sewer ordinance review, which is sort of our next steps in the 20-year study.
So I saw in the minutes something about Hoyle-Tanner thought they could maybe get some congressional money.
Right, so we did submit, or they submitted on our behalf, a request for congressionally directed spending. That went in last Monday, I think the due date was.
Okay.
So we're waiting to hear on that, and that would go towards, I think that was primarily the septage upgrading, septage intake and receiving.
yeah, the watering upgrade.
Okay.
Then just in general, on the rate sheet, I changed metered sewage to sewer usage, as we talked about, as we wanted to be more clear about what we were talking about with, rather than saying metered. So that's on the rate sheet, which is the rate sheet in here. So I just made sure we change that. And we'll make sure we change that on the bills.
Steve, can you move that left water sample over just a little bit? It's like something's reflecting and thank you. That one's fine.
So
Thank
interesting areas like this, they change it to metered/usage. So metered for water, usage for sewer.
Mhm.
Also updated the rate sheet. So these are real rates now based on usage because we've got our meter reads from the first quarter of FY '24, which gives us our standard April 1 through end of the next March readings for usage for water and sewer. So added those real usage rates up to this section, which calculates real rates based on the current draft of the budget. And then I updated the historical rate comparison sheet that we started over here with actual draft rates based on usage and created a few charts to try to take a look at historical usage. I had to break them out in a couple different charts because comparing $25 item to $200,000 items doesn't really work. So we have residential and commercial fixed rates over time, residential and commercial metered and usage sewer rates over time.
Oh, there, thank you. I couldn't see the legend before.
As you scroll down, yeah, you've got the school fixed and the school metered. Budgeted user receipts to show where we were with budgeted user receipts over the last 5 years. And then septage, annual versus budgeted. So this is the blue is what was budgeted, and then the red is actual. We had quite a bit of a gap in FY '20 and '21 and sort of closed that as we've used more septage in '22 and '23 and to be determined here in '24. So I think some items to start discussing is how do we want to disperse the $115,000 for water meters? Do we want to keep that in unrestricted funds? Do we want to use a reserve account or a combination of both? And determine how to fund the 2 water and sewer capital items, which could be added to the budget. That's these items here.
Okay, so last time I thought, and again, I was not here, so I'm basing this on the minutes, that taking all of the $115,000 from unrestricted funds was gonna leave us $20,000 in the red.
So it was when we had the $100,000 for installation. But yep, no, at the last meeting, Steve proposed doing that with in-house staff. So when we do that, it leaves us at a year end projected FY '24 of $68,000. 15% of the FY
we're over
'25
there,
budget
okay.
is 59. So we'd be right around that 15%. For
And then
water.
for sewer, I'm just glancing
Yep.
down since it's here. For sewer, we should have 131, we're going to have 178, is that right?
We will have 310.
Oh,
It will
131 is 15%, will be 178.
oh, that's how much we've got over. Okay.
Yep.
I get it now. Okay. So your question was, how are we gonna pay for those meters? It looks like we can, well, the money is currently in the sewer unrestricted and we're paying for water meters.
Yeah, but they're up here on water. So that's in the
Well,
water.
Can we use sewer money to pay for water meters?
No,
No.
That's my question.
yes, I know.
But we
Can't
could
touch it.
use sewer unrestricted funds for the new Influent pump.
Yep. So that's another question is as we look at here, we've got in wastewater, clean the aeration tank of $15,000. We can either use unrestricted, we could put it into the budget, we could use a reserve. And the same options for the Influent pump. And yes, we could do that with the unrestricted.
Bart, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to pause momentarily if we could about the how we pay water versus wastewater for the meters. So a rhetorical question, how do we charge for sewer usage?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Well, yeah,
It-
Yeah,
It's
That's a
based
good-
on the meter.
yeah,
So-
that's true.
I would observe that
Yeah,
if we can't bill for sewage without a meter, it is
Yeah.
plausible, should we choose, I think, to have wastewater contribute, but not pay for the entire cost of meters. Does
That's
that make sense to folks?
I think based on that, you could do 50-50
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
or 70-30 or something, however you wanted to do it.
70-30 is what
That-
the split
The
is.
split is anyway,
We
right?
still gotta pay for the influent pump too.
Right.
And so money's fungible. I mean, we're rearranging the deck chairs to pay for the meters and we still have to find money to pay for the influent.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say we're gonna have a lot more sewer expenses over the next
Mhm.
number of years than water. Just to
Steve, how
factor that
many-
in.
water customers are not sewer customers?
Not a
None
lot
that
like-
I know
I
of.
think just your
no.
farm.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Maybe
just-
Jericho settlers?
Huh?
Is Jericho settlers just water? Or are they sewer too? Either
I
way.
believe the trailers come back to the sewer
Do they?
system.
Either way, there's not that many, one or two.
Yeah.
At one
it's-
point when we were looking at that, when we got together to look at those spreadsheets, I feel like there were like three maybe
Yeah, there's not.
water lines that didn't
Okay.
have a sewer.
There, yeah, there,
And those
there,
some might-
you, and I think Jericho Settlers Farm, when they had two accounts. One was just for the barn, and the other one for the trailer. I believe that comes back, but I would have to double check
Hmm.
on theirs.
Okay, well, I have no objection to breaking it between the two in a 30-70 ratio, but then we still have to figure out how to pay for the influent pump, so I'm open to all suggestions.
And just to be clear, if we did 30-70, it would be 30% water, 70% sewer. This is how we split
Yeah,
other, right?
I don't know if you could do that, though.
I know the 30-70 may not make sense in this
Yeah.
case because they're kind of used equally in
Right.
both, really.
Yeah,
It's not like staff time where
Right.
70% of the time you're
Right.
both out of wastewater in theory, basically.
But if you did half and half, you'd be committing 55,000-ish from each account, which if I'm reading this correctly, we have 310 in the sewer unrestricted. So even if we paid for the influent pump and half of the water meters, we would still have money left over, not unrestricted, correct?
We're just,
you want to start a new
Okay.
sheet?
Yeah. oh, that's already edited in meeting, so we're good there. So if we added, what's half of the 55, half of this,
25, 26, 27, 28.
half of that. And what was the other one we were gonna, oh, the 150? Right,
Oh, yeah, the capital
Okay.
project. This influent pump was 150.
okay, so that would be 236,000 here. And then that actually leaves us below the 15%.
Mhm.
So this is gonna sound dumb, but do we want to be at 15% or do we want to, I mean, like, I realize, I feel like we want to have at least that 15% in our unrestricted, so if we have something come up, it's there, right? That
That's
probably don't want to dip under 50,
Right,
right. That's sort of the theory.
Okay.
Well, the commission doesn't have a policy on that. The select board's had a policy of 15, sort of a floor.
Okay, so we're cutting it a little close if we do that. And we can or cannot dip into those restricted funds.
Down here?
Yeah.
Yep, nope, those are available for approved purchases. So it might fit under wastewater capital. I don't think it would fit under short-term capital because there's sort of a specific list of items
Oh.
that Steve has. And collection system. Yeah, oh, could it fit under a collection system using Bard's theory? It might, Bard. But
Oh, sorry,
Bart
Bard,
has
your
hand
hand
up.
is raised.
No, I was going down the same path here, whether it's short-term capital or collection system. And one approach might be, to your point, Aaron, if we want to keep at our 15% target to shift about 29,000 to one of those restricted funds as a source. It makes it a little more complicated in terms of the accounting, but I think it's defensible.
Hmm. I would think maybe wastewater capital. 'Cause Steve, you have a sort of a list of short-term assets for the short-term capital. And
Yeah.
collection system to me is more manhole, sewer
Right.
pipes.
I think this would be a perfect fit. I mean, if an influent pump isn't wastewater capital, what is?
This would be for the water meters.
Oh.
Oh, wait, you're right. It could be
But it could
influent
be-
pump either way.
yeah.
Right, sorry, I'm not wrapping my head around.
Right, we could pay for the influent
Yeah.
pump out of wastewater capital, and then we have enough unrestricted funds between the two, if we split, to pay for the meters. I mean, that
Mhm.
seems like that should work.
Actually, if we did this. We paid the influent pump completely in here. I could type, that would be helpful. And then if we subtracted that out of, oops. The influent pump out of there. Then that gives us 120 over the 15%, still leaves us with 160 in wastewater capital.
There we go.
Mhm.
That might work.
Just imagining how they did this at meetings before Excel. Is there a chalkboard? Like.
They used an abacus.
They use one of these, very sharp, number
Um,
2.
and then we would just, since we're going down wastewater, we would need to figure out the $15,000 cleaning of the aeration tank. But that could easily.
That might
fit
be one of
into-
the short term or the collection systems would.
Well, it's not really.
No,
I was gonna say, it kind of fits into the just overspending unrestricted funds.
You know,
Cause at that point, right, if you add that into here, I think there's plenty. Yeah, and,
Still leaves you 105 over.
Mhm.
yeah, so we're good.
I think that still is pretty good, and then that solves, actually, let's see, so that would solve. It gets these two plus water meters. Then on the water side, the new alarm system and the excavation is 30,000. So that leaves us a little tight up here on unrestricted. Because we're only 8,000 to the good on the 15%.
but if we'd committed some of that 115
All right, so we have to
sewer, we
divide
should
this.
have a
Yep.
little, right?
Yeah, you're right. Now we have to divide that. Let me make sure I remember what we're doing here. So there. Right. Okay, and then. Yep, you're exactly right. I didn't do that math yet. So plus the 30,000 for those other two items. That gets us at half, plus 30. Did I do that right? Yep. Okay, yeah. That actually,
Mhm.
that balances.
I just wish there were more people dialed into the meetings so they could see.
Yeah, how,
Maybe MMCTV can do like a edited down 5-minute version. to
Version.
Show the excitement. of
Yeah.
one.
The Excel highlights, Excel top 10.
You know, it
Excel
is,
center.
when I was looking at the fixed rate, I mean, the rates graphs,
Mhm.
you know, one of the things we routinely hear is, especially from Kara, is how we have the highest rates on planet Earth. And so on. And clearly the residential and commercial, you know, obviously is bouncing back up again, but, that's all based on the amount of money we need to raise for the budget. I guess I'm just asking, what could we do? What have we done to try to keep that increase down?
I had a question about that, but Bard, you have your hand up, so you go first.
Well, I'll say this is sort of a tortured subject, literally and figuratively, but that is one of the things that drove us to contemplate expansion into the gateway. In conversations going back, 5, 10, 12 years, the issue is we have fixed costs for our systems and a limited number of customers.
Mhm.
And it's difficult to stop using the wastewater treatment plant or stop using the water supply temporarily. So it would appear to me that our ability to control expenses is somewhat limited. So then the question is revenues, and that's where we turn to expansion. And of course, you saw the bar chart of septage revenue as well. So those were attempts to increase revenue above and beyond what the standard pre-existing cohort of customers would be responsible for paying. I don't know if that's helpful, but it's sort of the background.
No, it is, but part of this is how you market it. I'm not trying to say we should do a snow job, but when people complain, they need to understand we're dealing with unprecedented expenses.
Mhm.
And they have a choice. We can just let the plant fall apart, or we can spend this money. It's no matter how we slice it, it's expensive.
The question that I had, which is sort of. So this year, the water rates were going to go down, and I think everyone loves rates going down, but then I see that on the sewer side, they're going to go up. So I was wondering if, and I could be misunderstanding this again because I'm still kind of new, but if we kept the water rates at what they were in fiscal year 24, would that make it so that we didn't have to raise the sewer rates
They have to be
Quite-
separate.
as high?
My initial reaction is they're sort of separate based on usage and budgets. But I said that 10 minutes ago when Bart found it interesting approach, so I want to make sure that I'm not overlooking something. But yeah, they're usually pretty separate because you have to raise enough money to cover the water costs with water. And you have to raise enough money on the sewer to cover the sewer costs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll hasten to add that I'm not sure that I can think of a whole lot that should be paid for by both other than the meters, which is in fact
Right.
used by both. I think
And-
generally they are separate.
Yeah, and in the budgeting process, we've accounted for things. That's where our 70-30 split comes in. So for staff time, for instance, it's 70% of wages are in wastewater, 30 are in water. So we've split, I think, what we know we can split.
But our new
Um,
Venn diagram has to have water meters and the little ellipse where they overlap.
I like it. Yeah.
Just a comment.
And the other thing I'd say, I'm sorry, David, the other thing I'd say for other people's benefit, like Aaron, is this has been split in two different ways, and then it's not only split between water and sewer, but it's proportional based on the use by the three different user groups. And we have seen that a little more dynamic in the last 5 years, I think, than in the past, especially around the school, right? And commercial government, if we have fewer restaurants doing less business, there's less like high restaurant users of water and sewer. So stuff can evolve over time, which is not only split between water and sewer, but split between the component user groups in each one.
Yeah, and I think school, if we look at water last year, they were at 881,000 gallons, about 5.13% of use. And this year they're at just over 1 million at 5.21. So they've gone up in their percentage of use.
And last year we
A
had
slight bit.
the whole kerfluffle about changing the how do you want it?
Commercial
Yeah.
Yep,
rates.
so what we did last year,
We changed it to like the 35 and the
The year-
65.
yeah, the year prior, I'm just going back for this FY 23, commercial government was 40-60 fixed to meter, and then we went with 35-65 to put more onto the meterage less usage rate, and I kept that number through to this budget. So if we wanted to look at changes, we certainly could. I think
Just-
the other numbers stayed the same, 30-70 and 50-50.
How hard is it just for like shits and giggles to do the 40-60 on the commercial?
Yeah, it should be.
Just to see.
Is that what we had before was 40-60? Yes.
Yeah.
So if you do 40-60, and I didn't look at where we were at before, but that would, increase the fixed rate by 45%, because you're going from 35 to 40.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
That would decrease that, so that could be challenging, and then you're going back.
Yeah.
I think there might be some slight, I think there's a couple other cells I need to
65.
change. But yeah, thanks. But that's roughly what it would be.
The other thing that I'm just gonna throw out there, as we put the new meters in, usage may change a lot for
Right.
some people.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Well, the usage won't change. What we say there, the accurate tracking will.
Correct.
Right.
The, you know, there are meters that have been in place since 1972,
Wow.
Yes.
so they figure the industry standard is every 20 years, the meter should be switched out,
Which we blew right out of the water.
but we have not. And they figure 10 to 20% droppage in accuracy after 20 years.
How far does that stray? Is 20% as far as they go, or if they're left for?
I mean,
years, do they keep?
They don't really do it because most people before 25 years have changed the meters.
Are you saying I don't have a leak? I just have a new meter?
No, you have a new meter and you do have a leak.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing that the only other lever we really have, or one other lever I could think of, is on the septage. I know Steve's gonna yell at me,
No?
but we budgeted 500,000 in septage. Last year we budgeted 550. So, you know, if we bump that up, that reduces user receipts and would reduce sewer rates. But there's a challenge. I mean, our actual FY23 was just about 500,000, so we may not get to 550 in reality. Sorry.
It's okay. So, you know, we were kind of cautious about septage receipts and how much to book, which contributed perhaps in the, you know, some years back to revenues that were higher than anticipated because we sort of under budgeted septage receipts. But part of the thinking at that time was not to become overly reliant. Like if we shoot for septage receipts that support a core part or a substantial core part of the budget, and then we don't hit that target, we're short, and then you have to raise rates of other users. So that was kind of the boogeyman back then of caution about septage receipts. And I think for what it's worth, those were conversations in years past about being cautious about septage receipts because we don't want to overestimate because of the potential impact on the budget overall. Does that make sense to folks?
Yes. Do we have like the septage receipts, do we have a budget for it? Is there somewhere in here where it says where we're on track as of halfway through this fiscal year?
I do have that.
I'm gonna say we're down
Yeah.
Yeah.
right now from the budgeted amount of 550. Is it
Well,
550?
yeah.
Yeah, I believe we're down.
Let me pull
I-
up the quarterlies. Just let me stop sharing for a minute while I dig in my files, but I'll find
Yeah.
that answer for you.
Okay.
You guys keep talking.
Maybe that's not helpful, but it would be interesting to see like, cause you've
Yeah.
mentioned a few times that you feel like we're down, like, are we down a quarter? Are we landing a little under half? Like,
I mean, December, January and February were very low.
yeah.
Right.
Um,
And it wasn't because they were going elsewhere. They just didn't have a
Have
lot,
it.
right?
they don't have a lot and there was some people we're in the price range where it doesn't,
They went to Milton instead, right?
well, if
If
they
they're
were
up
in
there.
Milton, they went to Milton.
Right.
You know, they didn't bring it here. Milton has had some issues now. Whereas right now, every morning I post, we can take 75,000 gallons.
Mhm.
And today we took 22.
Do we give them a punch card every time they do one, they get a punch and?
And one of the customers, one of our big septage customers is now land applying. So he's done for the summer.
So this also illustrates the vagaries, potential vagaries of septage, right? The behavior of the haulers can evolve, the behavior of other treatment plants can evolve, and I think it merits some caution about not overestimating revenues from septic.
I mean, I thought 500,000 was going above what I think we would do. I think this year we're gonna find out that we're right around 480,000 instead of the 550. And I mean, I would shoot for 500, but I'll take whatever I can get, but I don't wanna put our eggs in the septic basket if we don't.
If it's
Yeah.
unrealistic.
Well, and I
Right.
feel like we had a little pressure last year when we were doing the budget from community members to sort of try to sell our septage abilities and really push that. And it seems like
Well,
that just isn't something that we can push and have a ton more come in. So we need to be a little more,
we are pushing it. I right now will accept that septage from 7 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. And I'm letting all of our customers know that. We do get one particular hauler is coming to us because there's nobody open after 3.
oh,
So we were gaining, a couple of extra loads from that customer every day because he knows he can come here after 3. But,
I guess I didn't mean it like you weren't
No, no.
pitching it or advertising it, but that like the extra push isn't skyrocketing us the way that maybe.
I just think it's a lot of it is they had a big downturn this winter. that
Yeah.
None of them expected. And it made a lot of them fiscal conservative with how they do their business. And Richmond in the past had been unreliable.
Mhm.
Right now, we are reliable.
Mhm.
Since the upgrade, I'll take 75,000, no problem every day. But, the most we've ever taken since the upgrade is 35.
Okay.
That's our high day.
So it seems like that 500 number is probably conservative.
I really think it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thinking-
And-
and looking at halfway through, so this is as of end of December, we were at 233. We'll have, at the next meeting, we should have a financial update, which will show us how much we've done in septage in the last 3 quarters, so we can revisit it. But I think to the point everybody's making, if we keep that at 500, especially knowing we've got, these things that are all, they're gonna be reimbursed, but we're gonna have to have some cash outlay initially
Yeah.
on those. So having, if septage is a little higher, having a little more cash flow in the wastewater side would be helpful.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So, all right, well,
Okay.
good, we talked it through. Boy, I think I think we've really addressed most things on the budget at this point, unless there's something that we haven't addressed that people are thinking about, but I think we're getting close to final.
Yeah. It's unrealistic to expect to hear back on the earmark before we go to bed on this budget though, right?
I would think so. The last couple
it-
times we've done them.
And that
taken
really
months.
wouldn't affect the budget.
No, you're right. It would be more than 20-year
Essentially,
plan.
that
Okay.
is for the upgrade, which is coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of anything and everything.
I-
Are we gonna have a name the influent pump contest for townspeople?
Ooh,
A what?
A name the pump contest for the townspeople?
Sure.
Sponsorship.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The PMP.
We'll put your name on anything.
So do we feel like Bard's got a hand up?
Maybe I missed this and I apologize, but the reimbursable projects to be paid back as a bond. So these are expenses, but we don't have bond estimates, do we, at this point?
No, we don't.
That's over the
Until we-
horizon a bit.
Yeah, that is a bit down the road a bit, but they're all ones that we'll have to pay for and then get reimbursed. So we will need some cash flow to at least get through this budget, just to lay the money out before we get reimbursed. The engineering phases usually get reimbursed quicker. Construction can take a few months depending on the complexities of the construction as well as the staffing at DWSRF.
And it does say Tilden, but it's Tilden, Cochran,
Right.
and
For three.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I can update that for the annual meeting.
That's really helpful, because when I saw that, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money. for Tilden.
Right, sorry.
no, it is that three-phase project.
And I forget what the,
It's time for an acronym.
yeah, the TB,
Yeah.
TBC,
Yeah,
to be concluded.
So do we feel like we've reviewed the budget and are ready to move on to the next agenda item? Everybody good with that? Yeah, okay. So let's move on to the consideration of approval of final allocation for the 112 East Main Street.
Yay. Let me see,
now this is a split of 112, right?
well, this is the additional allocation that they need for what they're building. So let me open that up, and there's K Warden. But are you associated with the allocation? I thought Parisi might have been here. I know he had an engineer or somebody. You're not. Okay, let me open up the allocation. Yeah,
Person here to enjoy the excitement.
or, oh no, sorry, that might be for our next agenda item too. I just not recognizing the name right away. Okay, let me pull up the allocation. Give me a sec to stop babbling and look at some actual things. Okay. So this is to facilitate some construction at 112 East Main Street. What they needed was an additional water allocation of 360 gallons per day, an additional sewer allocation of 210 gallons per day. So that's over and above what they already had allocated. So they came for preliminary allocation in October. The total amount of the allocation is $1,606.50. For preliminary, they don't pay for that. They get the preliminary that allows them to get their water or wastewater permits from the state. They proceed with construction. They're now hooked up to the system, so we need to get final allocation where they pay and move forward. Typically, we ask for a check prior to the meeting. The applicant sent a check out in the mail, I guess, on Thursday night. We haven't received that check yet. So if you vote on this tonight, I would recommend voting for final allocation pending receipt of a check within the next week. So it puts a time frame on it. And then once I get that check, I can issue a letter of final allocation. Does that, everybody follow that?
Seems pretty straightforward.
One question though, do we have an address associated with the? Yeah,
So so it's for 112, is 112 East Main Street not the correct address?
well,
Or do they
112
subdivide
is
it?
the address, but he has, basically, it's a subdivision. And we need a mailing address for the new,
Allocation?
Right.
I believe so.
Is it are they changing it into a duplex or are they building a?
What
whole
they did was
second thing on the-
they built there's a duplex on 112 and they added a house behind it.
Okay,
Is that gonna be a separate?
So there is not an address associated, either 911 or anything that I know of associated with the new structure.
We could wait until we get.
Well, I mean,
Because in his email from last week, he was asking about that 911 address, which I assume Tyler, our zoning administrator, is working on getting for him.
Okay,
So maybe we wait just to make sure we've got the paperwork
'Cause-
clear. It's
'cause-
not big deal.
we have an account number. Connie and I created an account number for the account,
Okay,
but
you need an
we
address.
don't have a physical address for the account
Okay.
yet.
Is it a separate meter for the new house?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, it's a separate curb stop.
Okay. Well, then let's wait. Let's get that sorted out, make sure we've got the
Yeah,
correct, and we should actually, now that, I don't think I realized it was gonna be a separate,
Address.
separate address, separate meter. I thought this was in addition. So maybe we need to look at, okay, what's the allocation for that property? And what's the allocation for the current property?
well, that's what I,
And make sure we have
when
our
we
records
had that
correct.
meeting the other day, I was trying to relay that
I think
it was actually
That
two
went
separate structures.
over my
It's
head a
a,
little bit.
there was a duplex there on 112.
Mhm.
And he took the piece of land behind it and put a house on it.
Okay,
And it's
Well,
my.
There's sort of
People to do.
He's-
three dwellings.
Huh?
So there's sort of three dwellings is what you're saying within.
Well, the duplex had an account and has a meter
And an address.
and an address. There is currently for the new house, there is no address. We've created an account
okay.
and he has a meter in place.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I think I didn't understand all,
Yeah, I
I didn't pick
Yeah.
up on it. You probably told me, but let's,
12A or?
yeah, well.
Well,
yeah.
it needs to do, but
Yeah.
Tyler needs to set that up.
Yeah, let's just bring that back then, so that way I'd like to also make sure that we know how much allocation
Yeah.
each lot has. So
Right.
we don't, in 10 years, look at this and go,
What did we do?
how much allocation does A have versus B?
Yeah, well, we've had enough issues with that.
Yes.
So
okay.
should we write that in as the items for next meeting?
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
Got that there already? Okay.
got it written,
So we are not making any motions on this tonight. We're moving on without a motion, correct?
correct.
Okay.
Okay, Warden, sorry, Kirsten, that is Kirsten from Hoyle-Tanner
Yeah.
is here for the next item,
Yay.
so.
So
The excitement just keeps
the
building.
next item on our agenda is consideration of approving agreements with Hoyle-Tanner for number one, funding assistance, sewer ordinance review, and public outreach regarding the 20-year study, and number two, design and purchase of an influent pump. So John, are you taking this away from me?
Muted.
I hope.
Is that, are you speaking to me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What would you like? I wasn't sure. We were just here really to answer questions if you had any. But if you'd like me, Kirsten's also on the call. If you want me to start, if you want to review over what these are, is that helpful?
I guess it's up to the commission. Do you want? I
Whenever.
don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just a quick overview,
Yeah.
which John, you're probably better suited to give that than me. But if you want to give the 3-minute overview of what each one is, that might be helpful. I did include your email into the packet for them. But a quick review for the commission and the public would be helpful.
Great. Yeah. And Kirsten's on with me if there's technical questions, but just in quick summary, it's two different. So we decided to do the Influent pump as a standalone contract agreement to help you get through purchasing and installing those pumps with the contractor. So that one is, if we can, that would be great to seek CWSRF retroactive reimbursement on. And Kirsten has reached out to Lynette to see if there's a path forward for that. But the need of the project needs to move faster than trying to wait and go through the main project, through the wastewater treatment facility project. So that project there, that agreement goes for our services, which would be the design, bid phase, and construction phase services. And if you have any questions when we can come back around to that. The other one is for an amendment to the step one. So we currently have an open contract with you to do the step one agreement, which is the planning, the scoping phase of the project for the main plant upgrades. And this amendment would be something that would qualify under the CWSR program. It was tasks that we've been talking with Josh about, task one being funding assistance, which we've been, helping out with. We're not going to stop or slow down and wait for that, but to continue to help you with the CWSR program, identifying other grants. We just submitted the CDS, which is great. So fingers crossed, and hopefully we get that, but keeping, looking to offset as much of the cost of the town as possible. That goes with task two, the sewer use ordinance review. Through this process, in order to go out and get a successful bond vote, there's a couple of things that we need to make sure as a town that you have buttoned up, and the sewer use ordinance will tie into the other component of a user rate analysis and working with you to identify how you split costs between the septic receiving component as well as the on-system users, and overall for taxpayers, there's a balance between all of that, which goes into how much we propose in a bond vote and how the town is able to pay it back. A large component of what you get in the public outreach we've done is the website. So you'll see a fair amount of hours in producing the website. I think we may have shared it in a past meeting, but if you were even to just Google search Milford, New Hampshire wastewater treatment facility, that's a good representation of what we've done for another client that was successful in getting their bond vote. It's really, really important to make sure you get out in front of frequently asked questions, have a place for the town to go to as a constant resource to help build towards a momentum, a successful bond vote. So those are the three main tasks under the amendment portion. And I'll just stop there and open up if you have any questions for me or for Kears.
I'm looking at their website, but I don't know where to go now. We all frankly started going to the mill.
It's a standalone site. So I think if you search it, I think it would go, I'm sorry, I'm on a call. I'm at my son's track meet right now. I'm just taking a break. Yeah, so I think you'll find it if you tie it with Milford, New Hampshire wastewater treatment facility.
Yeah, Milford NHWWTF. Perfectly logical. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Taking septic.
I shockingly don't have any questions on this one. I feel like it was very clear and it's stuff that we've been working on, so.
We do have to make sure the outreach is good though, because people are going to be very leery about bond votes.
Mhm.
And we have to make sure that, it's not the entire town that will be paying back the bond, but we are using the town's borrowing authority for the
True.
thing. And that's why they're being asked. And the fact that we're asking the entire town is going to make them think they're on the hook for it.
Mhm. And I guess, are you guys able to help us? It's a really good point. Are you able to help us with things to put out on Front Porch Forum? And, I've seen with like the town center and the school and everything, like different people will put stuff on. And like, I'm happy to put those on, but I probably can't be writing the
I think-
professional.
Their idea is to create the website where the questions can be asked or the information can be found.
Mhm.
And if
Is
there
that
are,
my
A little
understanding?
bit of both. It's also under task 3.4 has social and print media assistance. So yeah,
Okay.
you do, there's a few different ways we're trying to collect information, and another one is the plant tour, where we can offer up a plant tour to a select group of individuals, but maybe like video record it and post it there. But yeah, our team, we have Nicole Davis, she's a public outreach coordinator, who, along with Kirsten being able to supply the technical information, they can help craft those messages that go towards your social media, as well as print media.
Right. And MCTV would be delighted. Disclosure, I'm president of the board. To put content up on MCTV about the bond vote, we could do a virtual tour of the plant.
Yeah, I would love to do something like that.
This is a very, very thorough website.
It is.
Looking through it, lots of pages, more than just an FAQ. Very, very nice.
We should put kids coloring pages to download from here.
have you been to our website? We have those.
On Park Farm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm thinking of it.
All kids
I
like
love
to make
brown
mud
paint.
pies.
mhm. Okay, that's good information that there's more than just the website, but.
Yeah.
I do want to point
I
out
do
with
think
this,
we'll offer tours and whatnot, and there will be a group of people that come. I don't know. I know I went to a couple of tours, like when they were talking about the town center building, and the 2 meetings I went to were poorly attended. I imagine we will put things on and they may or may not be attended well, but
We'll
we
have
can
to
at
help.
least have them, and it'll be good to have your guidance of what we should be doing at those.
We'll have to offer goodies.
Yeah.
One of
There
the
you go.
things that we did in Milford, I believe they went into the elementary school, right? And so they had tours. They kind of like engaged the kids, and that, like, you'll be amazed that the kids will talk about it at home. Like, oh my God, we went to the wastewater treatment facility, or we saw where that goes when you flush the toilet. And so that started doing like it started to prompt a lot of discussion. And I think that was like one way of kind of bringing the whole town. So they had some of the people heard about it through their kids. You know what I mean?
And the 4th grade, they do outreach. Do you remember that? The Project Citizen thing that the kids
Yep.
do? And each class has a problem that they try to help solve.
Yeah.
And maybe the
There is
wastewater
a-
treatment plant is a thing for
I-
them next year.
I just Googled wastewater coloring pages. And there's a ton of them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
Um,
yeah. There's more than you wanted to know.
A lot of
Yeah,
Crayola.
why don't you can share your screen if you like, Jay.
Oh, sure.
How many color browns does
Yeah.
Well, this is a
Crayola
lot of
offer?
purple for some
There
reason,
should
but-
be some blue when it comes out, right? Not all brown?
Not all brown, correct.
Sharing, where's my share button? There it is.
So while we're waiting for that to load, I do want to point out the amendment will still need to go through.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna show
More than
you
I knew
They're
about.
hired. Well, who are they? They're hired.
Crayola.
They can have a job.
I'm deadly serious. I think
It's
it'd
a
be a
good
very,
process flow diagram. I'm ready to hire.
if kids are coming and showing their parents wastewater coloring pages,
Yeah.
parents might be, who knows, a little more engaged than they're just automatically voting no. We don't know.
Yeah.
So are we ready to make some motions or do we have more questions? What do we think?
So I would just propose like that we would be ready for you to sign the Influent pump agreement with a motion of approval from New York Commission. So, but the amendment to the step one agreement, we will need to review that through Lynette with the CWSR program for her concurrence. So that step needs to happen first before it can be signed. But if there's a way for you to motion it to allow Josh to be able to sign it, provided it's approved generally in those terms that have been submitted into you, that does speed up the process for when that gets going.
And I think that's written into our motion because he's in there as the duly authorized representative. That's the wording you need, right? Is
Yeah,
that what you mean?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, I just gotta stop.
Okay, Jay.
You're just going down the coloring book rabbit
Yeah.
hole over there.
So, so does someone want to make a motion or?
Is the motion as
me?
in the, if the motion in the packet is fine,
Yeah,
yeah.
If that works, because
Okay.
it gives me authorization to.
we have to do the first one and then the second one.
Okay.
but-
Okay, I move to approve the agreement with Hoyle-Tanner for funding assistance, sewer ordinance review, and public outreach regarding the 20-year study at a cost not to exceed $81,000, and to name town manager Josh Arneson as the duly authorized representative.
This is David, I'll second.
Okay, so we have, then I reread the motion and ask for a vote, right?
Sure.
Is that, okay.
Yeah.
So pending no further questions or comments, we have a motion to approve the agreement with Hoyle-Tanner for funding assistance, sewer ordinance review, and public outreach regarding the 20-year study at a cost not to exceed $81,000, and to name town manager Josh Arneson as the duly authorized representative. All in
Well,
favor?
and you
Oh,
always say who made the motion and who seconded it.
okay, motion made by Jay Fur and seconded by David Sander. So calling a vote,
J.I.
David, I.
Ard, aye.
and Aaron, I.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve the agreement with Hoyle-Tanner for design and purchase of an influent pump in an amount not to exceed $26,033, and to name town manager Josh Arneson as the duly authorized representative.
Aaron, this is David, I'll second.
All right, so any further questions or comments? So without any further questions or comments, we are going to approve the agreement with Hoyle-Tanner for design and purchase of an influent pump in an amount not to exceed $26,033, and to name town manager Josh Arneson as the duly authorized representative. Motion made by Jay Fur and seconded by David Sander. We can now go to a vote. All in favor?
J.I.
David, I.
Ard, aye.
Aaron, I. So this motion passes. And for the record, Duncan, the first motion passed as well, but I don't think we said it. All right. So thank you
Thank you.
very much, guys, for answering our questions. Enjoy the track meet.
All right, thank
Have a
you.
good evening.
Good deal. Have a good one.
All right, so moving on, we will be at the discussion of installing in a new alarm system for the water system. Steve, would you like to introduce your guest?
I can introduce myself.
Okay.
I'm Chip Crawford. I'm from Champlin Associates. So we're the ones who had come and talked to Steve about installing the alarm system, which is called Mission Communications. So we utilize Mission Communications across northern New England, which is our area of representation. We have about 680 of the units out. And we figured that this would be a good solution for Steve as he's looking for some separation between just one alarm that comes across and wakes him up in the middle of the night as opposed to something specifiable that he can then work with.
Is this a cell phone based system?
Yes, sir.
And does this replace SCADA or is it tie into SCADA?
So
Well,
go ahead, Steve.
Well, this will separate our water system from,
Oh, I'm sorry, we're talking water.
yeah. So,
I'm always thinking sewer.
no,
It
so,
can do both.
right, but so the way it currently works is we have one alarm for our pump station
Mhm.
and for our water house that alarms on SCADA back to me.
Okay,
Just
What-
says alarm.
It's just one alarm. It could be the pump station, could be the water house, could be the tank is running empty. I don't know unless I physically come to the plant and look.
got it.
There's no way on SCADA to distinguish. It's called a common alarm, and that's what it comes up as. Common alarm. What I have proposed and Champlin has agreed is a smart way to go is to separate the water system from the SCADA system, which is primarily our wastewater system. And the way to do that is with this mission system.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the proposal we talked over with Steve, myself and Alec Disler, as well as Dave Crawford, the owner. So we went over a couple different iterations on what we could potentially do. So we did originally a mission system that would be tank and well,
Mhm.
which is for the water side, and then also had a mission system for the sewer, so that you could see more alarms on your wastewater station, because again, even as just the pump station, you would only get the common alarm later.
Mhm.
But what we're doing right now and what we're focusing on is separation of the water and the sewer. So we move forward with the idea of tank and well alone. Tank and well is a software that will essentially allow Mission to control your system. So in a filling of the tank from your well system or the filling site, whether it be booster stations or something of that nature. So they will also give specifiable alarms. So Mission right out of the box, a little bit of background, it has 8 digital components for you to tag onto and 2 analog components to tag onto. So if you're looking at pressures or tank levels in some way, shape, or form, it can tell you that, and it can give you high and lows. It can give you chlorine levels, if that's something that you're really interested in the future, which Steve and I talked about briefly about the potential of a chlorine analyzer that we use a lot that ties into Mission very well. So those things can be monitored. pH, we can monitor pH off of Mission. And again, the analyzer we put out now, that would be an expansion card into the Mission so that you have more than 2 analogs, because those would be analog signals. But we have other things for, like, if you have your pumps running, or in this case, mixers, up at the tank, you want to be able to make sure that they're running and not over current like they were before, was a problem Steve had presented to us, and we can monitor them to see the current and the issues that are going on. So, as well as give, if you have well pumps or booster pumps that run, we can show the run times, show if one's running longer than the other, show if you're not getting a proper yield from the wells, or your water sourcing. And so that would allow you actual data and access that you can go back through. The other advantage with that for Mission is it's cloud-based, so you have that forever, and it's always organized. You can go back to whatever time frame or time period, and because you own the Mission, you get to see it. It never goes away. And there are different variances in the data, but the biggest thing was the fact that you can put a specified alarm saying, mixer 1 burned out, or mixer 1 high current, mixer 1 fail, pump 1 failures, or excuse me, pump run failures. You could say if you have a high or low chlorine alarm, high or low pH alarm,
Right.
anything of that nature. So then well, gosh, I have a high chlorine alarm, something's going wrong with my chemical pump.
Right.
Go out and take a look. Or hey, I have a low chemical, I have nothing. Either A, I've run out of mix, or B, something of that nature, right? Which the guys obviously check on a routine basis anyway, but it is helpful should something go wrong in the middle of the night. to get an actual alarm that comes across and it says word for word what the actual alarm is that we enter into mission.
Steve, before, I'm sorry, Aaron, go
No,
ahead.
you go.
Okay, so before now, you get the common alarm, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, your wife says, right on time, you head over here and you go to the water, you go to the tank, and how do you start triaging it at that point? You just have to
Well,
start going around looking.
My first stop when I get a common alarm is I try to clear it from SCADA. If it does not clear, then I know there's an issue and I have to come down. First stop is make sure there's not the alarm, the red light's not blinking on top of the pump station. If it is not, then I go to the water house. Then I start assessing, are there any alarms set up in the water house that are on? And that could be, you know, the blower, it could be the pump, could be tank height, any of those things. And then I just start working through it. If I don't find anything there, then I go to the wastewater plant. And I go through everything on SCADA, try to clear it again, and most of the time I've assessed and figured it out.
But in the middle of the night, in the winter, that could take you hours.
Yeah, I mean, just an example, and I got a call one night from somebody that said, hey, I went by the pump station and the red light was on. I came down, I went through everything. The pump station red light was not on when I got here. That was like at 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock, Josh texts me. Hey, my wife just drove through and the pump station alarm was on. I come back down, I go through everything, the alarm's off. Nothing. I reset it, it cleared. I get one more at about 11:30 at night. I do the same thing. I come down, pumps, the alarm isn't on. I cleared it. I assumed everything was going to be good till morning. The next morning, we figured it out that it was actually something in the pump station that malfunctioned. The sub pump wasn't working. Had nothing to do with the water system.
Right, well, I think there's a very obvious case to be made that we need something like this.
Yeah.
It's absurd that you have to drive 3 times in one evening to check something.
Well, and it's what you have to do, because
I know what
I don't
you-
want the,
You
I don't
want
want the wastewater overflowing.
Mhm.
But if
and I
you know
don't-
what it was, you could have saved a lot of the triaging time. What's the price tag that we're looking at?
Yeah, so part of the reason we went with the tank and well alone, it's a $15,000 install. And so that has a recurring cell fee on there as well. So the yearly cellular fee is $563. And then, but that's talking our technicians coming out, installing it, and then doing a training so that Steve has everything he needs set up, as well as other
Right.
people as well, if that's necessary.
And the thing that I liked about the mission system is it's build uponable.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Well,
like,
as he's made clear,
this is
right,
getting us in the door, separating the water system on its own, the way it truly should be. And if we get through our water meter install and everything, and we have some extra money and we decide we want to go to, you know, putting on the pH, putting on the chlorine, and there's also fluoride, right? We could do
Mhm, we
fluoride.
could do fluoride.
I mean, we could do the whole water quality report via this thing.
Yeah,
Correct. People
There
actually
you go.
utilize that. There are multiple towns for the state of Vermont that send up mission reports. You can download it into whether it be a Excel spreadsheet or you can make it look like the old chart recorder and you can print that out onto a piece of
Right.
paper and send it up.
so what I heard might not be quite, I feel like I'm missing something. So you said that it was $15,000 for the install, and then there's the yearly sell. So what does it cost to buy the system?
Nope. So the system itself is roughly $15,000.
And that
Like,
includes the install then?
Correct.
Okay.
correct. It is, that includes our installing of the system, and then it's a recurring fee. The $563 is built in that first quote. That's a recurring fee that appears
And
to you
that's
guys.
monthly?
Yearly.
It's
Yearly.
Oh, yearly, I'm sorry, I
Yep.
misheard you.
No,
Okay.
it's okay.
Okay.
So.
I know sometimes when we bought equipment at the farm, there's like the price for the equipment and then the price for the install. So I was like.
No, we don't quote it that way. We
Okay,
do it together.
It's all
Yeah.
together.
Yes.
Well, that's an even better number then. We have a question in the audience, Heidi.
So Heidi Borman, so my question would be, just because of alarm systems and whatnot, what is the warranty on this? after installation, how many years are we looking at for warranty?
You know, I have to double check on what the actual warranty is.
Okay.
But we service it well within a year at minimum.
Right,
Um,
that's manufacturer warranty usually.
yeah, and then there's also like other things that happen, like if there's obviously acts of God,
Yeah,
can't really do anything about it, but if there are things that are proven to be the board or some other piece of the circuitry, then that goes back and is replaced.
okay, and that's in the contract that we would be looking at.
That's in the
Okay.
fact you're just like signing on with Mission Communications, that's their warranty that they give.
Yeah, thank you.
David?
So does this system just monitor, or would Steve be able to actually physically control aspects of the treatment plan or the?
Yeah, so because it's tank and well, that's a control software that we implement. So if he's at home, and let's say he wants to fill up the tank because it's at normal filling level or height is 10 feet, it's at 8.5, so it didn't really fill much that day, but the cycle's been done. You can go in and manually turn it on, and then let it fill to 10 feet, and then you can turn it back off.
Oh, is that something you would want to do?
I mean, and the well house currently runs pretty much on its own. But it's nice to have that ability. If say the tank dropped and I got an alarm, I could turn the pump on if it was off. And if it continued, by the time I got down here or figured out, I could, turn the pump on. If it's not gaining, then we would know there's a major leak and, it would.
Okay,
I
The
mean,
thing
it
that's-
is nice to have that ability.
It is, but I'm also worried that it would then open the possibility to tampering and,
being hacked.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
So on the talking of like the security side of things, right? So Mission's on its own servers, its own backups. So yes, you can access it through the internet, but it has the
GSA.
two-step
Okay,
authentication, as well as the fact that it's a secure site for you,
okay.
right? So if Mission itself, the only way that Mission on a holistic level would be hacked is if somebody got into the Mission server itself.
Which could
Let's
happen.
say it could happen, right? Nobody's foolproof. That'd be a lie.
Yeah.
But if you had, let's say, the town of South Burlington, they utilize Mission. If somebody gets into their site, that doesn't mean they're on your site.
Yeah,
So
I like the idea of remote monitoring, but remote running scares me, especially going.
so there's another layer put in for the security. There's a pin that you have to enter before you can enter into the actual remote.
So let's address that issue a little bit, because this is one of the up and coming things, cybersecurity for your water and sewer systems.
Mhm.
So essentially, right now, we don't have any.
Right,
Our SCADA system, which I have access remotely at home to, is done via log me in,
Mhm.
which
Oh, that's
basically
highly secure.
any high
Yes.
school kid can, okay? So that brings us to another thing that Champlin has said they can address for us, is creating a firewall for our SCADA system, correct?
Yeah, so we call it the Periscope system. It's not an official, that's our fun name for it. Essentially, what we utilize is we put a special black box on it. So what it shields everything, and the only way you can get in is by an encrypted key.
Mhm.
And so the encrypted key would go to right now Steve and then us,
Okay,
and whoever else it would need to go to, right? But that way you have a bubble. So this is the same stuff that they're using on government level
Mhm.
protections. And so that's a monitoring system or site that we would do, because within the Periscope or the actual little black box, we can see into your SCADA if there's a problem.
Mhm.
But the only people who could see in is with those special encrypted keys.
I have a
Now,
quick
if-
question and then Bard's hand has been raised for a while. Is that additional or is that part of the cost that we?
That is not
discussed?
part of the Mission system.
Okay, so
No,
we can
that's a
talk more
separate
about
That
that.
is a separate system that we have talked about putting onto our SCADA system to eliminate the log me in
Yeah,
and give us some protection from being hacked.
okay. Bard and then David.
So when we started talking about this is, I'm sort of mirroring, I think, what David said, that, the monitoring seems very straightforward and safe. You can't sort of mess with it. But from what I read in the national press, security of wastewater, water treatment, and other utility systems is kind of a big deal. And for people who are trying to hack and be sort of harass the United States for whatever reason, this is starting to happen. I mean, you know, so I think I'd like to be more confident about the security and an independent judge of this is the right security to have, these passwords, these protections, the two-factor authentication before we open that up, just because I've seen this happen a few times, even like the UVM health network. You may recall that they had a lot of protections built in, and it's just one oversight that led to their not having a system to use for, what was it, 3 weeks?
Oh,
They were
wow, yeah.
passing around like paper documents written by physicians, which is kind of laughable if you think about it. But so I just, you know, I think this is the wave of the future. I'm just sort of cautious about security given the propensity of folks in other countries hacking their way into US platforms.
Well, I just want to reiterate, you're very smart to be worried about this. The Soviet, I just about use the term phrase Soviet Union. Good Lord, listen to me. The
You're
Russians,
old.
yeah, the Russians have been attacking power systems and water systems. Just for the hell of it, just to be ready for if there ever is actually a war, they've got the experience. In my line of business, I'm in healthcare IT. Change Healthcare, one of the nation's largest payment processors, period, for healthcare claims, has been offline for months. And if they don't know security, I mean, who does? So I don't think there's any such thing as an absolutely secure system, except for one that's not connected to the internet, is in a locked room, you know, guarded around the clock by dragons. Mil-spec security requires, you know, it to be air gapped so that you can't. I mean, there's no such thing as absolutely secure, but we would want to be as secure as we could.
Yeah, and I feel right now very strongly that cybersecurity is something that is, and in the business, it is coming forefront. We are going to be required to do some of this stuff. The mission system is pretty much, a lot of the bigger systems have gone to the mission system.
Do they have competitors? I mean, are we going to have to get a bid? I mean,
Well, that was,
bid?
I mean, I don't know of anybody. I called Phil Laramie to ask him. He's very Phil has several systems he runs and monitors with the mission. And that's where I learned about it, was from Phil. And he swears by it. I mean,
It must make for interesting conversations. I mean, it sounds like a
No.
very good system. I mean, I work in software.
Yeah, and like you said, nothing is absolute, but for the mission system, like there are thousands across the United States, and they're pretty bulletproof. There's not been a hack into mission. Right. So, but they have 3 contingencies for if something is. They have 4 different backup sites. So they've done a drill one time where they were down for a whole 45 minutes before the rest of the nation came back online. That's how long it took. So they're relatively quick when it comes to the fact of this is what we're doing to keep things secure.
So David, do you have a question?
Yeah, I wholly support the remote monitoring. I think that's great. I am scared about the possibility, well, 2 possibilities. One, you being locked out of a system where it's doing whatever somebody's remotely doing and you can't pull a plug. And the other one, remote changing of chemicals, adding a fluoride, adding a chlorine.
and that's why I'm not asking for that in the initial setup. I'm asking for just the basis and try it and see how it works.
For alarming.
But right now, yes, but right now we have a wastewater plant pretty much with nothing. Well, it's
So,
how it is.
so I think what
Where
we're,
you can go in and change
Yeah.
everything, you can do everything you want to it, if you
Yeah.
got access to and the worst hack in the business was a result of a former employee having downloaded the SCADA system to his personal computer and then went in and changed stuff after he was terminated. So,
Well, that's for TFA, you can just lock it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be easier these days to lock people out.
yeah.
Well, right.
So my two questions are, so could we just go with the monitoring system and not the adjusting system to start?
Yes, so the mission box, right, would be the same box regardless.
Okay,
The software is what you would add in, right? And so also to go to your point a little bit, I don't know if you were a little bit implying it, we don't necessarily add on chemicals for the mission. We don't do that. We do the filling and emptying, and the rest is done via the actual manual control panel. And we ensure that there's a physical manual override on site.
Mhm.
So if there is something that were to ever go wrong, you can go in and you can hit the big kill switch, bam, and then it's yours,
okay,
right, on site. Now it makes you, of course, be manual again if something were to be wrong until it gets fixed. But we always have that redundancy because we had it only ever once before where we didn't put that in, or they didn't want us to put that in, and we didn't, and it was a problem. Because it was done remotely. Somebody literally went to sleep and they left the well on in hand and it overflowed. So the other guy who was on call didn't have.
the ability to shut it off.
Correct.
And you're staffed 24/7 if somebody does have a problem, right? I mean, mission is staffed 24/7.
Yeah, mission communications has tech support on site. Like we try to respond if there's an emergency. We do a little bit of triaging depending on what the issue is. We try to respond within one business day. You know, if there's an emergency call on a Saturday, we try to make sure we come out if we can. You know, that we have contracts with a few different towns for their pump station maintenance. So, you know, it's that sort of a tiered level of like, if everybody's out doing that, then obviously it's a little hard, but we try to make sure if it's somebody like you guys, we try to get there within a business day of time.
Right.
Okay, and then my second question was, and I maybe should be able to answer this on my own, but I have not gotten through the 800-page document. Is something like this written into the 20-year upgrade already? That it's kind of like the Influent pump that we're doing it sooner? Or is this not something that would be in the
So
20 years?
what this is doing, Aaron, is separating our wastewater out of the sewer.
Yep.
They will essentially become two separate. They are merged in this common alarm right now.
Yep.
The.
Well, I just
that
didn't
is-
know if the whole like
but-
system was gonna.
No, because all that upgrade deals with is the sewer side of it.
Okay,
And
Right.
what I'm saying is, let's separate them now and I believe this is the way to go.
okay, that's,
Is what I'm saying.
okay.
Okay, speaking as the software engineer in the room, I'm liking what I'm hearing. The fact that it's so widely used and that experienced professionals in the industry like Phil Laramie have a very good track record with it, that it does have two-factor authentication, which these days is just necessary. And the fact that it would save you from having to come over here in a blizzard at 2 o'clock in the morning
Mhm.
multiple times in one night. I think a pretty compelling case has been made for following up.
I mean, if it wasn't me coming over here, you would, that would have been a 9-hour overtime call for an employee.
And
Yeah,
Heidi has not been willing to take up
No,
that
she
job.
won't come.
No, I
She-
won't do it, but I do have a question.
so
So
question,
the other thing too, that I think I would point out is if the pump fails. Okay, because I have an alarm system, so I know exactly what you're talking about. The pump fails. How much is a new pump? That it's gonna cost the taxpayers versus the $15,000 versus that seizing and blowing up that motor. So we are gonna be well
Yeah,
over or under what the cost would be. So financially, it would be the right thing to do, but I do understand the whole security thing.
Mhm.
But as far as you burned the pump up, we've almost gone through that whole little experience and
Yeah.
this would save us.
Mhm.
so I guess in the interest of time, I feel like it's time to wrap up this discussion, but it seems like there's a lot of positive support. So
yeah.
moving on, do we get a quote from you? Like, what do you think our
have the quote.
actionable steps
We have
are
an
from here?
actual quote.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
I
so
mean-
there's two things with, we sent this quote to Steve.
Okay.
And we also sent him the quote for sort of the periscope as well. Now, obviously, we're focusing on the mission system, but if you guys are interested or in conversation with Steve, interested on the periscope and the SCADA assessment, we'd be happy to do that. So we have SCADA technicians with us as well as SCADA engineers. So, we can take a look at all of that at a later date as well.
And they would be willing to work with, Hoyle-Tanner on the upgrade, if we went.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
So
mean-
we design, we do design stuff for SCADAs.
Okay.
Like we are a rep firm, so we do different things. Our controls company is Primex, which is I control SCADA. Which we're actually doing a prelim design for a few plants right now. So yes, we'd be more than happy to work with Hoyle-Tanner.
Great.
So let's put that on. Oh,
So essentially one thing that I'm trying to address here is
Yeah.
our control person that we currently use or company, LCS Controls. It is, if I contacted them today, I might not hear back from them till next week.
That's not good.
no.
No. And I understand their position. They have way overbooked themselves into oblivion. One thing that Champlin assures me that if it's a 24-hour return call, at least that.
Right.
And if we went with like the periscope system, you could address it within 24 hours, I think.
Right, part of the contract within Periscope, and again, in the interest of time, I won't go through all of it.
Yeah.
Is that we respond within a business day.
Okay.
So if you guys have an issue, we A, log in remotely, and B, send somebody.
And is there such a thing, in my company, we have tickets and we have critical tickets. Is there a level of service where something is just, I can't imagine what, but something is really, really, really bad?
Yeah,
There's an escalated level.
there are tiers, right? So like
Okay.
triaging, like you had said, but we always try to make sure within again, that 24-hour period, we log in anyway. And try to assess what that is. So if you can't operate the plant, then obviously you're at the highest level.
Okay.
If you're like, hey, I've lost a pump, but I can still operate over here, it's like, okay, that's, level
Yeah.
2.
Okay, perfect.
How much is the periscope quote?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember.
Is it?
I have it
Less than
here.
15,000?
That's the agreement. There's the quote.
So for the next meeting, can you share these things with us and
Yeah.
then we can talk about it more, vote on it, whatever needs to happen? Does
Yeah.
that sound good to the commission?
Fine to me.
Well, I guess through an RFP standpoint, I mean, $15,000 is usually where we would do a sealed bid process. But with this, it seems like Mission is the system that you want. You've done research on that. So then would we do an RFP to see who would supply and install? And there's also the service end. Like, I don't know how many other companies are out there that do,
For Mission,
yeah,
so Mission, we're the sole reps
you're the sole rep in
in Upper
Vermont.
New England, Upper New England.
Upper New England, and that's all I found.
And if Mission, you've done your research, they're the ones.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
so we might be in a sole source situation where if that's the case, we might just go with them, if there's no other, and you've done some research on other ones. Yeah, it's not like a
And you,
paving bid, it's different.
and you've heard from other towns that you've.
Yeah.
And you've heard nothing bad.
no.
Okay. Okay, so yeah,
Yeah,
this might
so-
be one where we can not have to do a sealed bid.
Phil can set in our plant, bring it up on his phone, the Mission, and he can control what's happening in Newport's wastewater plant.
But he's got to do TSA before his phone will let him in, right?
Yeah, but yeah, just that.
I just don't, and
Yeah, no.
you don't want to think I pick up Phil's phone and I'm just, yeah.
Right.
No, that is not the case.
No, not at all.
Okay. So it sounds like we'll
We'll
talk about it
work
next
on-
week and we might
I'll give it.
make some motions.
An agreement together and.
And if you guys need us to meet again, or have one of us come out, we'd be happy to do so.
Okay.
Or join on Zoom if we're voting to ask questions, whatever works
Yeah.
better for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, Awesome. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to like cut you off, but we do have
No, you're good.
a few more things we have to do.
Right, of course, good to see you.
So we do have a few things. We want to go
I got a really good,
update of the,
I've got a quick and good update on the water tank inspection.
okay, good.
So, okay, so I asked Steve to just send me the contact for the company that did the inspection, because I know
Yeah.
so they got, no, but I know, because Steve's obviously running from one failure to
Yeah.
the next. I'm behind a computer all day, so just let me deal with them. So they got back to me really quickly. They said, because it was this convoluted process of like,
Wasn't it?
log into this site, here's a 5-page doc. It was ridiculous. They had it under so much security. So they just sent me the video and sent me the report. And so I forwarded that over to Tyler Billingsley. So he's got it. He's gonna review the report. He's gonna review the video. I've downloaded it all locally. So if their site goes away in Dropbox, I've got it all. So I think hopefully by next, we got 3 weeks to our next meeting. If Tyler can review that and come in with some suggestions, we'll know more. We're moving forward.
Okay, so moving to the next item, we need to review the March 2024 water data. And there, that was in our packet, so
I'll
in
pull it.
theory, we've all looked at it.
Yeah, I'll pull it up now for the viewers.
So,
And for Heidi and
Yes.
Becky, yeah.
They're viewers. Sorry, didn't mean to. There we go. So, Steve, I'll let you speak to it, but I think, overall, we're really doing well.
No, the other thing that you will notice is our water usage has gone way down since we fixed the leak over.
Mm,
I mean, it is. We can actually, there's some days on there that you see no usage because the pump wasn't on. So there's that. I will tell you, we've changed some things. Again, making it better. And we're on track right now. I'm knocking on wood. Halfway through the month of April, we are on track to have no yellow anywhere and that's our goal.
nice.
We're averaging right now, a 0.75 for our fluoride consistently. And we're around 0.9 for our fluoride.
Chlorine.
Our chlorine. So we've dialed it in, we've done a few things different. And we now consistently feel that we can keep our numbers right there with minimal yellow. I mean, this is kind of minimal, but I think we're even better than that this coming month.
Awesome,
The goal is no yellow.
awesome.
And we figured out how to get there.
All right. So moving on to the next item. We have an update on the status of Tilden Ave, Bridge Street and Cochran Road Waterline Replacement Project, TBC. Josh?
Okay. So yeah, it is actively under review by DWSRF. They've reached out for a few items from myself and Tyler Billingsley. We've given them, I think we have one more thing to give them. But they're reviewing it. Our goal here is out to bid by, anyway, our goal is to be out to bid by the fall or early winter with plans for construction in the spring of this time next year. We've communicated that with
kidding.
John as well, because he's interested in getting some things.
I think Becky's.
Yeah, I'm gonna figure out who it was. Pete's also interested in doing final paving on Bridge Street, so he's really anxious to get this project done, but I'm pretty confident that by this time next year, we'll be moving forward with construction.
Okay. Without any questions on that topic, we'll move on to a very exciting thing for Steve.
Show
That
and
it's
tell.
gonna be the superintendent's report now instead of a long tasky list.
So, yeah, I brought in 2 samples just so you can see what we actually produce.
Tell us about them.
This is what actually is flowing out of our plant into the Winooski River. And this, which you really can't see very well, is our biosolids that we are now producing that are being sent to New York.
Looks kind of dry.
It is
Can
extremely.
we hold that up to the camera over here? Which camera?
The one. Yep, yeah.
That's why I think on your drawings, you're gonna need blue crayons, because your water is clear when it goes out to the earth.
There you go.
Showing.
Up a
Yeah.
little bit, yeah,
It looks good.
Oh, I mean, it's what we produce. It's-
Yeah.
yeah.
I won't say it smells good though.
Pass it around? No.
I think it smells better than it used to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And dry is good because
right.
you pay less for
We pay
it.
by the ton, so
Mhm.
right, drier we can get it. It is. The biosolids upgrade, what we have done so far is awesome. It is making it, we can process all of it that we get, all the septage we get, all of our sludge that the town produces. In a efficient and timely manner.
So how much do you expect we'll be saving by not shipping water out with our,
I'm curious, this tractor trailer that'll be sent out, to Wednesday. Will be the first one that we've actually filled, that has been dry. And I'm looking to see what the tonnage difference is.
And is this gonna go to Greenfield?
It goes to New York, yeah,
grasslands?
Grasslands,
yeah,
No,
Greenfields.
but
Alright,
is
good.
there a difference in
Close.
how long it took to get that volume?
It's hard to say because septage is going up right now a little bit. We shipped one on the 1st
Okay, so it's been
of
2 weeks.
April, so this has been just, we'll average like 2 a month is what we're looking at. But I'm looking to see how much.
I would
I
have,
haven't had to send a sample to get the percent solids that we're at right now, but we're way above. It used to come out looking like cow
Right.
poop,
yeah.
an actual plop. Now it comes out, it's like,
It's like ash.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, and I would imagine it won't be so different, like the tractor trailer is still gonna fit volume, it's gonna be the weight of the
Right.
volume,
Yeah.
that's gonna be the difference,
yeah,
not
and
the,
that's why I'm looking to see
Yeah.
what we.
Do we go by weight or
Oh.
volume?
We go by weight.
yeah.
Weight.
As far as the water goes, we should show faith in our water treatment plant by passing that around. We all take a drink, right?
I'm good,
Yeah,
I'm
you
good.
can, Brad will for $1.
It's like licking the salt, like,
But
Yeah.
that's literally.
But no, that's as crystal clear as that I took right out of the discharge to the Winooski.
that's good.
It is basically what we take in, that's what we produce.
What
We
pH
produce
is
the
that?
Solids and the water.
What pH is that?
This morning it was like 7.3.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed in the water quality numbers, we're really being consistent about that. That's that and the water.
That
quality,
pH is the water that we
take
are
out of the ground.
taking out of it.
So it's still in the right range.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in case folks didn't read on the thing, this topic also involves the superintendent's report, how since most of the items on the to-do list are now wrapped into the 20-year study, you're gonna get a talking time, but not go through the checklist, I think,
Right.
right?
So basically, I'm gonna give you what's going on at the plant right now.
Yeah.
Despite this, we've had a couple of major problems at the plant yes.
But no pressing problems.
No pressing problems, no.
Mhm.
We currently have no heat at the plant.
Oh.
Our furnace is down. That
That's
is,
just for heat.
yeah, that is just for heat,
Okay.
which, isn't a big deal. We can survive, but we still need to get it fixed.
Yep.
So I've reached out and got somebody coming this week.
Is this a small problem or a big?
We
problem?
don't know,
Not working.
I called one person that the town has used. They came and looked at it and were like, no, that's too big for us. So I had to call Vermont Mechanical. And they're gonna come Thursday and give us an assessment of it. It is a massive boiler for the size of our building.
What are we using, propane or oil?
Natural gas.
Natural gas?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm rather than.
How old is the boiler? Can't be that old if it's natural gas.
Yeah, I can't, I know it had to be done after the upgrade, but it is a massive boiler, yeah.
Hmm.
I think it was set up as propane during the upgrade and they
Oh,
converted it to natural
Okay.
gas.
Um,
The boiler isn't that old, I don't believe, but
so what's the other item? You made us.
the other item,
two.
which is major and is really concerning to me, is back in early February, early January, late January, early February, we had an issue with the clarifier we were using. What I thought was just a drive chain broke. We sent out, we got a new one, replaced it. What we have found is it is not the drive chain, it is the actual bearings that the drivetrain the actual part of the clarifier that runs in water all the time. 1972, when it was put in, I have the records. It was last serviced in 1983. It was supposed to be, I have all of this documented. They was supposed to be greased every 3 months. It was greased up until 1985.
85.
How is it at all working?
The Babbitt bearings have worn out
Mhm.
and are actually locking the shaft up.
Mhm.
And that's not
Are
good,
those-
right?
I can't use it.
Are those
Oh.
replaceable?
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out what I dug around extensively throughout the plant and in the bottom of the plant. Underneath all of the other shelves, I found one brand new bearing.
So with a completely unfunctional clarifier, what impact? I mean, how big of a crisis is that?
It is a crisis because knowing now that this one is in this position, we have the mate to it running right beside it. Is
Let's
our,
grease it.
huh?
Let's grease it.
The grease fittings aren't even existent anymore.
So there's no way around, we're gonna have to replace these.
I am trying to figure out what the alternative is. Whether the Babbitt bearings are still, they say they are still. There is in Syracuse, there is a place that will re-Babbitt the bearings. Yeah, I don't know.
Can that model be upgraded to?
Well, I don't know. See,
Probably.
these bearings have to run in water
Right.
all the time. What baffled my mind was the only way to grease these bearings was to drain the clarifier.
Every 3 months?
And that's why I know it has, I mean, they never put it is possible they could put a remote grease fitting in and it was never done. I mean, that's my answer going forward would be to put remotes for the grease fittings. Once I figure out what we can do. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's actually 6 Babbitt bearings in every clarifier. And the shaft size is 2 7/8. So they're a considerable chunk of steel. Plus, the other thing is they're cemented in. The bracket that holds them was cemented into the wall. So changing means changing everything if we have to. But currently we have one clarifier and this clarifier, which I thought was just a chain, we corrected that. It's going to be major. I'm trying to figure out how to do it right now.
I'd be surprised if the manufacturer didn't offer a replacement bearing.
Please tell me the manufacturer. I have a name. I have a company,
From 1971.
the company doesn't exist, the company, the name exists, but it is now converted simply to agrochemical company. They don't
Hey, Mary.
handle any of this type of stuff. I mean, there are other companies out there, there might be a retrofit.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, there's gotta be somewhere. I'm just the last, over the weekend, I started getting into this and figuring it out.
And Steve, is this something that's gonna be upgraded in the 20-year?
No.
It's not.
Nope.
It is now.
Well, right, I was just wondering, do we need to find a temporary fix or a permanent fix? And it sounds like a permanent.
We need to
fix.
find a permanent
Okay.
fix to this. It's essentially,
Hmm.
once this one is done, we need to drain the other one and address any issues that are in it.
So it's a
Well,
bearing and a
yeah,
jack shaft.
It's a bearing and yeah, I mean, it's a 10-foot long, 10-foot 9-inch long shaft that has a drive wheel and then two
Chains.
chains that drive that, come across and,
Hmm.
you know,
That's
skim the
two and
top.
7/8,
Huh?
2 7/8 diameter shaft.
Yeah,
We have a question in the audience.
And there are two clarifiers?
yes, it's a redundant system, but one is down
Right.
and
So
it,
we're potentially, if it's going to be a permanent thing, we're
Doing twice.
potentially looking at two.
yeah, oh yeah, I wanna,
I just wanna.
Yeah.
I wanna definitely address the other one, and once we figure out what the best
And
answer,
each clarifier has 6 Babbitt bearings.
yeah.
Right.
So I guess my Hoyle-Tanner, any insight or?
I called her
or
today.
Phil Laramie?
From,
Those
I
are the-
called
yeah,
her
all right.
today and I called Phil today.
Okay, I was thinking
Uh,
two experts that we know.
Yeah.
Those would be the ones.
So it seems,
My thought is Phil will have an answer to the Babbitt bearing.
Hmm.
yeah.
I just gotta,
Okay.
I mean, we're not.
72 was around the time when they started phasing out Babbitt bearings with the replaceable
Yeah.
shells. So I'd be really surprised if there isn't an off the shelf.
The thing
replacement.
about the only one that has a lot of torque is the drive wheel. And that's the one that's failed, it's actually locked up.
Yep.
The other ones, when they converted the clarifier chain from steel to nylon, they changed the drive gears are actually a nylon and
Yep.
they actually rotate around
Yep.
the shaft. So the other bearings really don't have to be adjusted. It's just those essentially 4 drive bearings that are the ones that are concerning me the most.
So will you keep us in the loop? What
Oh,
we find
yeah.
out between now and the next meeting? Cause 3 weeks seems like a long time.
I mean, we're gonna figure out what the best attack is.
And if we need to do an emergency meeting to
We
authorize
can-
something,
yeah.
we'll do that.
Yeah.
It wasn't a concern. It was, a broken chain and it was a worn out chain that was, but when we replaced it and it still didn't turn and it snapped, it looked like it was gonna break the new chain. Then, we stopped and then we got in and investigated and this is what we found, so.
And depending on the price, we may not need a special meeting. I mean.
Yeah, but if
No,
you
I
do,
mean,
like, let us know. We,
Move forward with
I'm
that.
hoping
If
that
it's $50,000, we'll call a meeting,
Yeah.
but if it's $5,000, we'll
just do
give
it.
it time.
Okay. So I think we have a couple more topics to touch on, but definitely keep us updated about that if you. All right, so the discussion, water and sewer minutes discussion. Right, is that what's next?
We're on to- Yep.
So the discussion of details and water and sewer commission minutes.
You want me to jump in?
Sure.
Okay, sure. So we did have a discussion, I guess, a year or so ago about the level of details in both water and sewer and select board minutes. Select board, we actually reduced the amount because it was taking quite a bit of time to go through each meeting and provide sort of word by word recap of that. That saved him some time on the select board side of the minutes. On the water and sewer, we never reduced that, so he's continuing to do the same level. We never adjusted that a while ago. But really, realistically, looking at the amount of work that we're continuing to give to Duncan, I'd love to try to find a way to reduce what he spends on minutes, because one of the main projects he's leading for us right now is response to FEMA on the $400,000 plus and getting that reimbursed. And there's a lot of details that he's trying to track and keep track of and get into FEMA. So I know there was a desire for maybe more detail on water and sewer, and I'd say, I don't know that we can add more detail at this time. I'd like to try to even reduce it back to kind of where our select board is and see how that works, just to try to free up some time on Duncan's plate, because he's definitely got more projects being added over the last number of months here. So for what that's worth, Duncan, I don't know if you've got more to add on that.
No, I think you recapped that pretty well. It's once again we're going above and beyond the statute of what's required for minutes, and I feel like my time can be better used when that information is elsewhere. And when we look back to 2019 and 2020, the minutes were much less than that, and we've had to deal with hybrid meetings. We've had to deal with, you know, all sorts of other ways that we're dealing with this. So it's, I think it's just a smarter decision to minimize it and summarize it and connect to the resources that are there. I encourage anyone to like go to the first 30 minutes and try to write the minutes for the first 30 minutes of today's meeting. And where do you draw the line of what is enough detail and what is summarized? I think that's where I'm always caught.
Duncan, I was just going to mention, because we've got the timestamps in the minutes to say this topic began being discussed at this point, full transparency is there. Somebody, I'm not trying to say let's make it opaque and just say go watch the video, but that is an option for somebody who wants a deep dive.
No, and I feel like with the select board too, I still try to provide enough little summaries to, if you wanted to dig down deeper, you could find it. It's like going, you know, microfiche back in the day. You know, you got to go dig a little deeper if you really want to get the old details. But I feel like I try to provide a trail to the agenda item, the timestamp, the people involved, and then some of the major topics, and then obviously the motions and all the decision making. But all the debate and all the banter, I don't feel like is good use of my time to try to illustrate that, where it's all on video these days and you can easily find it.
And I think everyone is in agreement that you do a really good job of what you're doing. I think the discussion more just happens to be like, what do we want from the minutes? I don't want you to take any of this personally. I feel like last time I was the one that brought it up, and I don't want you to think I'm judging you. I'm just judging what are we going to want in the future. But anyway, we had a question in the audience.
I do, Heidi Borman, Duncan. The question I have for you is, because your time is so important, is there a software to make this easier for you that you can actually just have them go, okay, everyone said this, and it just goes into your computer and it just automatically translates everything?
Yeah, we're already using some of that software. That's one of the fun parts about what I've done in my job. That was not around in 2019, 2020 before I started this job. And I've tried to evolve with that. Same thing with Zoom meetings, like keeping track of participants. That's not easy to do. Obviously, you got in person, but you've got tools and Zoom and Excel to track that. And I at least have a database to do that. And same thing with the transcripts. I provide many committees with AI transcripts that weren't used 2 years ago. Just because that's something I stumbled upon trying to simplify this process and make it more true to the statute. Once again, I'm trying to be honest to the statute and all the other pressures that we're trying to do for the town. It's not like we're sitting around with, oh, I wonder what I should do today.
And the thing with the AI, like he shared with me some of the raw AI transcripts, and it doesn't catch everything. It doesn't catch who's speaking. It's not really formatted. I mean, give it 6 months or a year, the way AI is going, it might be a lot better. I think it's a big helpful tool to him and had reduced some time. But it's not like he just goes in, spends a half hour bolding a couple of things, adding italics, and we're good. It's not quite that good yet.
I'm just impressed, Duncan, that you're doing that, because I'm thinking what is going to cut down your time to be able to do things that are more important for the town.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're already on it, so that's great.
Well, no, I want to make sure both everyone in the room I feel totally appreciated in my role and what I'm doing. Likewise, I'm trying to help the town do things that I think are better use of my talents. And like, I don't think, doing this, sometimes I'm like, this is not a good use of my time. I can simplify this, I can point you to the right direction, but me getting the word by word is not a good use of my skills, in my opinion. And maybe a new person would disagree, but I think that's something we got to be attention to. And just, understand what those minutes are for and our new technologies that we have, which are incredible. We're increasing participation, which is great. We're increasing hybrid meetings, which is great. But that wasn't around 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Okay.
Well, thank you for the update, and it sounds like this is not a voting item, right? So we'll just
No.
kind of continue where we're with what we're doing and reevaluate if it's warranted. Right?
I think
We're good?
that's,
Moving on?
Yep.
Okay. So the next item on our agenda would be the update on congressionally directed spending request. Josh, you want to give us the abridged version?
sure. So Hoyle-Tanner identified that a congressionally directed spending request could be submitted for the septic receiving and processing facility at the water treatment plant. So they went ahead and did that. At the last meeting, we talked about that. They needed a letter from the Water and Sewer Commission, so I drafted a letter along with Morgan. Morgan signed it as chair. I shared it in the packet with the commission if you wanted to read through that. I also had Hoyle-Tanner take a look at it to make sure that they thought it was appropriate and focused. So we got that in for the agreement that was sent in, or the request that was sent in by last Monday. They are still accepting, I think, one of them letters afterwards. So I've reached out to septic haulers to have them sign one letter, and then I've reached out to some of our political officials, so state representatives, state senators, to have them sign a different letter.
Did you get that email from Brad with all the septic haulers info?
Yes. So
I think the letters looked really good
I
personally.
was trying, so basically it's gonna be the same letter, but signed by different parties, and I got some responses. I have to follow back up and get those in. But they are able to accept some letters after the deadline. This is additional support, but we got the commission one in on time, so.
Every one of the haulers we spoke to said that they
Yeah.
wanted to sign it.
Cool. I did get some positive responses. I gotta follow back up and
Yeah.
get the letter back out and get it signed, but yeah, I thank Hoyle-Tanner for bringing that up and putting the application together, because they're not small applications to put together, and there could be a lot of money there. It
Yeah.
would be great.
All right, so moving on, and then we'll wrap up. Discussion of invitation for the Water and Sewer Commissioners to attend the Vermont Rural Water Annual Meeting and Trade Show scheduled for the 8th and 9th of 2024. And that's at Lake Maury, yes.
I got
a little
the-
closer, it would be, I mean, it's not that it's a million miles away, but
It is.
It's good.
I,
Good food.
Over an hour drive. So. But I wanted to put it out there, by no means is it a requirement, but I know you
Probably
guys
wanna
might
go.
go again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's the trade show that I know you
Yeah.
find very valuable.
Well, and there's classes that
Yeah.
are put on that give us training credits.
I'd rather offer my services to watch the light while you're gone. So that you can go. And then another year I'll go with you.
the red light on the water house.
Yeah, but I've got a lot going. on.
So the 8th and 9th are on a Thursday this year?
Yeah, we're both on one day.
No, one day's the golfing. If you read the
Just
thing,
wanna golf. You can go
Oh.
on.
Thursday, Wednesday and Thursday, Nathan. I think,
For all that.
It starts out Thursday.
it starts out, no, I think it starts out, I did not write this again, the second time in a row. So I think the annual meeting is on.
you need to help him.
The annual meeting is on Thursday,
Okay,
but the trade show itself starts on the 8th, and then on the 9th, which is Thursday. And then we have Friday the 10th, and then my birthday on the 11th, that Saturday. So that's how I know that the 11th
They're
is
celebrating your
Saturday.
birthday at Vermont Rural Water.
I mean, why wouldn't you, right? Yeah.
They're giving her the city.
I do plan on, entering our water in their taste test for this year.
Do they have an effluent tasting?
make sure you keep
are
that.
they-
Not the effluent
Oh, I
one.
wanted an effluent tasting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make sure you grab the right vial.
Oh, they both look like that. Yeah, we couldn't go last year because we had a violation of that asbestos test wasn't done.
Mhm.
So it dinged us and they wouldn't allow us to enter last year.
I think we won it a couple years ago, did we not?
Did.
Yeah,
Pretty
Yeah.
sure we all read about it on the front porch
Yeah.
forum.
yeah.
I tried to enter last year, we were denied. And I'm gonna try to enter it again this year, which I have to do soon.
So for some reason, last year's water wouldn't boil?
So Bard, do you have any comments on this or are we ready to wrap up?
We're ready to wrap up. I have conflicts on myself on the 8th and 9th.
Madam Chairman, I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Well, first we need to discuss if there's any items for the next meeting, other than
So
what we've
the,
already talked about.
112 East Main Street allocations coming back. We'll get an update on the alarming and possible remote SCADA operation
Yeah, mission.
Yep,
and update on the clarifier bearings,
Absolutely.
Babbitt bearings.
Yeah.
Silly Babbitt.
and Heidi, did you have one to add?
I do have one question, and I hate to do this, but because I wasn't able to get out of work in time, and it's in regards to the budget. My question is, are we staying within the 15% of? I am so glad to hear that. That's
And
why
we're
I'm here.
buying things and we're
Thank you.
staying.
I just want to say thank you. That's why I'm here tonight.
Okay.
But I have to work. Warrants tonight? The warrants?
Get them at the beginning.
Yeah.
We try to.
Well,
wrap up.
Just a comment,
Yeah.
this is Bard.
Bard has
Heidi's-
a comment.
You, Heidi.
Bard has a comment.
To Heidi's question, just a reminder that there are the reserve funds and I will say the wastewater system is not in the place that the rest of the town budget is in. So we're within the 15%, but we are looking forward to a very substantial expense on the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. So, stay tuned on that. The 15% will seem perhaps like
Trivial.
small potatoes compared to that.
Don't burst my bubble, Bard.
Okay, so without any further questions, it sounds like we are ready to accept Jay's motion. Do we have a second to adjourn?
I'll second.
Okay, so all in favor of adjourning this meeting, say aye.
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 Bard, before you go,
Aye.
can you give us 2 thumbs up? I want to look at something. No. It didn't do it. I sat in a Zoom meeting and there were fireworks in the background.
Oh.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
see some of you momentarily.